The DNA kits were my idea. 4 boxes under the Christmas tree, one for each of us, because my daughter had a school project on family history, and I thought it would be fun. 6 weeks later, that same daughter said her results out loud at the breakfast table, and the third line down said she had a first cousin with a last name I had heard exactly once in my life on the invoice for our swimming pool. That is how I found out my wife had an affair 15 years ago, and it is how I found out with who. We were married 21 years. I operate a tower crane at the port. My wife manages an apartment complex, 200 units, and she runs it well. We have 2 kids, a daughter who was 14 when this started, and a son who was 9. We were the boring couple on the block. Cookouts, ball games, 1 vacation a year to the same beach. The kits came in the mail the second week of January. Everybody spit in a tube at the dining table, and we sealed them up and dropped them at the post office together, and I drove to work feeling like a good dad. The results came back in early February on a Saturday morning, all 4 at once. My daughter had the app open before anybody else was out of bed. She came down the stairs reading off percentages, laughing at her brother for being more Irish than she was, and then she stopped on the landing and said, "Dad, who is the cousin with the weird name?" I said, "What cousin?" She turned the phone around and showed me. "First cousin," the app said. "High confidence. Share DNA in the range that means close family." The name next to it was a woman I had never heard of. The last name I knew. 15 years earlier, the summer before our daughter was born, we put a pool in the backyard. 1 contractor, a crew of 3, 10 weeks of digging and concrete, and my wife bringing them lemonade. His last name was on every invoice for 3 months, and I wrote the checks. I had not thought about that man in over a decade, and now his family name was inside my daughter's phone. I said, "Probably a glitch with those apps, kiddo." She shrugged and went to find breakfast. My wife was in the shower. I went out to the garage, and I stood at my workbench, and I looked up what a first cousin match actually means. It means one of her parents is a sibling to one of that stranger's parents. There are no strangers on my side. I know every cousin I have by their first name. Then I searched the stranger's name, and it took 40 seconds. She was a school teacher, married, with a public page full of family photos, and the man standing behind her in a Christmas picture with his hand on her shoulder was the man who built my pool. Her uncle, my daughter's first cousin, was the pool contractor's niece, which makes the pool contractor my daughter's father. I did not confront my wife that morning. I made eggs. I drove my son to his basketball game, and I sat in the bleachers and cheered at the right times. And at halftime, I ordered a second kit under my name from a second company, overnight shipping. If I was going to blow up my family, I was going to be sure first. The second kit took 9 days. I swabbed my daughter's cheek myself, telling her the first company wanted a backup sample, and she rolled her eyes and let me. I swabbed my cheek in the bathroom with the door locked. 9 days of dinners and homework, and my wife asking me if I was feeling okay because I was quiet, and me saying, "Long week at the port, overtime season." She believed it. In 21 years, I had never given her a reason not to. The school project landed in the middle of those 9 days. Her family history presentation, the whole reason I bought the kits, was due that week, and she stood up in front of her class with a poster board covered in photographs, and I know because parents were invited, and I sat in the back row of a classroom on a folding chair next to my wife. There was a photo of me holding her at the hospital, 20 minutes old. There was our wedding, her grandparents, her little brother as a baby, and a pie chart of her percentages with a gold star sticker on it. She pointed at the hospital picture and told the class, "This is my dad on the day they met me," and everybody laughed, and my wife reached over in the dark and squeezed my hand. I let her hold it. I sat in a child's classroom with the lab results in my jacket pocket, and I clapped with everybody else, and that was the closest I ever came to breaking early. On the 9th day, the second company sent an email while I was 100 feet up in the crane cab between lifts. Probability of paternity, 0%. I finished the shift. I brought the last container down slow and clean, and I climbed down, and I drove home at the speed limit. My wife was folding laundry when I walked in, and I asked her to come out back with me, and we sat on the edge of the pool that man built, with our feet over the water, and I put both results on the concrete between us. I did not say a word. She looked at the papers for a minute before she touched them. Then she said, "It was one summer." She said, "You were working nights that whole year. The bridge project. You were never home, and I was lonely, and it was one summer, and it was over before she was born." She said, "I did the math back then, and I told myself she was yours." I said, "You told yourself." Her answer was, "I wanted her to be." She said, "She is yours. You are the only father she has ever had. That is what matters." I stood up and went inside, because if I had stayed on that concrete one more minute, I would have said something I could not take back in front of an open window with my son doing homework on the other side of it. I slept in the guest room that night, and I called a lawyer the next morning from the port lot before my shift. He had me in his office by noon. I put the 2 results on his desk and told him the whole thing, and he listened until I got to the part about the pool, and then he started writing. Then he told me where I stood, and I had it all wrong. He said, "In Texas, a child born to a married woman is presumed to be her husband's child." He said, "You are her father in the eyes of this state today, and nothing on those 2 pieces of paper changes that, unless you go to a courtroom and ask a judge to change it." I asked if the other man could take her from me. He said, "No. Anybody who wants to challenge a presumed father has 4 years from the birth to do it, and the child is 14, so that door closed 10 years ago. The man who made her has no standing, no rights, and no claim." Then he said, "There is one legal process left, and it belongs to you alone." He said, "It is narrow for a man who finds out he is not the biological father, and it has a clock on it, about a year from the day you learned, and if you go through with it, you are no longer her legal father, and you owe nothing, and you have no say." He said, "I have to tell you it exists. I am not telling you to use it." I sat there in his office with the 2 reports between us, and I thought about a 14-year-old girl on the landing of my stairs, asking me who the cousin with the weird name was. I said, "I am her father, and I am not filing anything. What I want is a divorce, and I want that pool filled in." He laughed at that, and then he got serious and told me how a divorce goes here. My wife wanted 2 things in the week after the pool. She wanted counseling, and she wanted me to promise the kids would never know. I said no to both, and the second no was the one that mattered, because the kids already had the app. My daughter had messaged the cousin. Of course she had. She is 14, and a stranger who shares her blood showed up on her phone, so she sent a hello with a smiley face and asked how they were related. The cousin was a grown woman with a family of her own. She called her uncle. On the Sunday after the lawyer, a number I did not know called my cell phone, and the voice said my last name as a question, and then his name, and then, "I think we need to talk." He said he had just found out he might have a daughter, and he would like to meet her. 15 years, and he was asking me for an introduction. I told him what my lawyer told me, word for word. I said, "The law says she has a father, and it is me, and your 4 years ran out a decade ago." I said, "You poured a pool in my backyard, and you slept with my wife, and you drove home, and you never wondered about her once in 15 years, and an app does not get to make you her father now." He said he had not known. I said, "You knew her due date. You knew the summer you were in my yard, and a contractor counts weeks for a living. So do not tell me you never counted." He got quiet. I said, "Do not call this number again." And I hung up, and I blocked him, and he has not called since. I told my daughter the truth the following night, with her mother in the room, because she asked me at dinner why the cousin had stopped writing back. I told her that the test was right, and that a man who worked at our house before she was born was her biological father, and that her mother and I were getting a divorce, and that none of those three things changed who walked her into kindergarten. She did not cry. She looked at her mother, and she looked at me, and she asked, "Am I still yours?" I said, "You were mine before the app, and you are mine after it, and the app can say whatever it wants." She smiled and went upstairs, and I heard her door close, and I heard her crying through it, and I let her, because she had earned an hour to herself. Her mother started to go up, and I said, "Not tonight." My son heard it from both of us that same week. He asked, "Is my sister still my sister?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Okay," and asked what we were having for supper. And then he asked if the new house could have a trampoline, and it does now. My wife's family found out from her, and to their credit, nobody on that side called me with a speech. She told me the rest of it in pieces over those weeks. It ended when the pool was done. She said he finished the punch list and shook my hand in the driveway and sent the final invoice by mail, and that was how she learned it was over for him. She cried about it back then. She said, standing in her bathroom 15 years ago, pregnant, crying over another man's invoice while my name was on the mailbox. Then she picked a due date story she liked, and she went on with our life. I asked, "If the app had never existed, were you ever going to tell me?" She said, "No." She said it fast, no pause, no shame. It was the only completely honest answer she gave that whole year, and I thanked her for it. I did the math on that summer myself before I ever said a word to her. The port had me on the expansion crew, nights, 10 months of it, and I came home most mornings after she left for work and slept until the crew showed up out back. I signed the pool contract to make the year up to her. That is the part I chewed on the longest, 100 feet up between lifts. My apology to her is what put that man in my backyard. I remembered one Saturday from that summer. I came home early with the barbecue for the crew, and the crew was gone, and his work truck was still in front of my house, and my wife came out the side gate in her swimsuit with a glass of lemonade and told me he was checking the pump lines. I stood in my yard and thanked that man. I tipped him $300 at the end of the job for staying late so many nights. I went to a family counselor exactly once because my wife asked in front of the kids, which was the smartest move she made all year. The counselor was fine. She asked what I wanted out of the process, and I said, "I want my kids to watch their parents end a marriage without ending a family, and I want a schedule on paper before school starts." My wife wanted to talk about us, about the summer, about how people get lost inside long marriages. I let her finish, and then I asked the counselor if she could help us build the custody calendar, and we spent the last 20 minutes on logistics, and my wife cried quietly next to me while we split up Thanksgiving. I felt bad for her in that room. That was new, and I did not fight it because I could feel bad for her and still leave her. In the hallway outside the mediation room, my ex-wife stopped me. She said, "I spent 15 years waiting for a phone call or a letter, and somewhere in there I stopped being scared, and I forgot it could still come." She said, "And then you bought the thing that told on me, and you wrapped it and you put it under the tree." I said, "And you watched me do it, and you smiled, and you spit in the tube with the rest of us." She did not have an answer for that one. Neither do I, to this day. She could have knocked that kid off the table 100 ways, and she let it ride, and I will never know if she wanted to get caught or just liked her odds. The lab fee for the second test was $179. It is the best and the worst money I have ever spent. The divorce took 7 months, and Texas is a community property state, so the house and the retirement split down the middle no matter whose fault it was, and my lawyer told me that on day one, so I would not waste money chasing a number that does not exist here. What fault changed was the house itself. She wanted to keep it, the house with the pool, and raise the kids there, and buy me out of my half over time. At the mediation table, months into all of this, my lawyer slid the old invoice folder over and asked her lawyer to note the line items, and my wife looked away from me for the first time in the whole process. I had kept every receipt from that pool, and the evidence had been sitting in my filing cabinet for 15 years. He asked whether my wife really wanted a judge to hear that she was asking a crane operator to finance her staying in the house where she conceived a child with the man who built the pool in the backyard. She dropped the house that afternoon. We sold it in the spring. I bought a smaller place with my half, 3 bedrooms, no pool, a good school district, and the kids have a room each and a key each. I got them 50-50 on paper and about 70-30 in practice because my son asked to live mostly with me and my daughter followed her brother, and their mother did not fight it, and I think we all understood why. Child support runs from her to me now, set by the state formula off our 2 incomes, and she pays it on time. I will give her that. Her mother came by the new house once that summer with a box of the kids' baby pictures she had been keeping, and she handed it to me on the porch and said, "These belong with the children, and the children live here." Then she hugged me and she left, and we have been fine at every school event since. My daughter is 15 now, and she calls me Dad with the same weight she always did. And last month, she asked me to teach her to drive, not her mother, me. And we did church parking lots on Sunday mornings, and she is terrible at it, and it is the best hour of my week. Her biological father sent 1 card that first Christmas to the old address, forwarded to the new one. It had a gift card in it and a note that said he would love to know her when she is ready. I gave it to my daughter because it was hers, not mine, and I told her she could do anything she wanted with it. She opened it and she put it back in the envelope, and she said, "I already have a dad, and I do not need a coupon for another one." She threw it in the trash. I did not put it there, and I did not tell her to, and I have never been prouder of a decision I had nothing to do with. The man's wife called me once in the spring from a number I let ring twice before I answered. She had found out from the same app and the same niece in a family conversation that went silent when she walked in. She asked me for the year, nothing else. I told her the year of the invoice, and she did the same math I did, and their 2 kids were born on either side of it. She said, "Thank you," and "I am sorry about your family," and I said it back, and neither of us has called the other since. I heard through the cousin of all people that their driveway conversation that night did not go well, and that he spent some nights at his shop. I did not enjoy hearing it. That is not true. I enjoyed it for about a minute, and then I thought about his kids, and I stopped enjoying it. I closed my account on that app in the fall. There was nothing left in it for me, and I had learned everything it was ever going to teach me. My daughter kept hers. That is her business and her blood and her choice to make down the road. And when she is grown, if she ever wants to sit across from the man and hear his side, I will drive her there myself and wait in the parking lot. She knows that because I told her once, and she said, "Noted, Dad," and went back to her phone. The cousin and my daughter still message sometimes, about shows mostly, and about a dog the cousin got. I stay out of it. The next Christmas, the kids and I hosted at the new house, first time, and my daughter claimed the kitchen at noon and made a turkey that came out dry as a work boot, and we ate every bite of it and told her it was perfect. and my son rated it 2 thumbs up from the trampoline between plates. Their mother came for the last hour by the schedule with gifts, and it was stiff, and it was fine, and she left before dark. There were no test kits under that tree. There was a gift with my name on it, though, from my daughter, wrapped in newspaper because she forgot to buy paper. It was a picture frame from the dollar store, and inside it was the photo from her school poster, me at the hospital, holding her, 20 minutes old. She wrote on the back of it, "Still right," is what she wrote. My daughter has her learner's permit now. On the way home from the license office, she drove us past the old house, one slow lap around the block, with both hands where I taught her to keep them. The new owners put a basketball hoop over the garage. The pool is still there behind the fence, and it can stay there. Then she said, "Take me home, Dad," and I did. To me, this was a tough one, only because this man is raising a child that's not his, and he raised this kid because he thought the child was his. I know a lot of men wouldn't do this for a child that they didn't father, but when you've raised someone for 15 years, it's kind of hard to just go and cut them off like that. I'm just saying, a lot of men can do it and a lot of men cannot do it. And in situations like this, that can turn violent, and this is why states are considering having mandatory DNA testing at birth, which this should have been done a long time ago, because these men are paying fortunes for kids that are not theirs. Just saying. See you in the next one.